Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Paulette. How's it going today? I was so excited for today that I actually just kind of started putting my drawing down. So if you are logged in and you want to get set up, go ahead and put your still life together. Now, I got kind of ambitious. I feel like I have some time this week to really dedicate to this. So I set up a pretty big still life and I'm going to be working on a big canvas. This is actually the canvas that I used in the last video. So I painted over it. And I decided to paint these kind of like different neutral squares on it. Just for something different, a different challenge to work on. So you don't have to do this. You don't have to get this big. You can use like a small canvas and just do a little still life. And I might actually work on this a little bit today also. And I'm just going to wait just a couple more minutes before I get into anything too major. But like I said, if you just logged on, go ahead and put together a little still life for yourself. It doesn't matter what you work on. I got ambitious. I'm working on a big canvas today, but you could also do something small. I'll probably do some things on this today also. I did put some links in the comments of this video, which I cannot access at the moment. But if you don't want to set up a still life and you just want to work from a photo, I put a couple links in the comments section underneath the video. And if you can't access that, let me know. I really just did a Google search and I put in summer still life and then found a couple images I liked. So that's where I got those links from. So the things that you'll want to have handy today, you'll want something to draw with. I'm going to work with charcoal today. Of course, you'll want your canvas. You'll want your full-on paints. And we're actually going to work a little bit with black. Usually in my classes, I don't use black. But if you have a black paint, we will work a little bit with this. Hi, Joanne. Good morning. So you'll want water, paper towels, your brushes, all your normal paint supplies. Just doing a little still life to get back into our studio practice. So today what I'd like you to try doing is tone your canvas with a gray or a neutral color. And you see here I have this kind of gray tone. I did use just black and white paint for this. All of these other kind of neutral colors I have here are mixed up. There's a lot of white in these, that's why they're so pastel. But if you would like to take your black paint, if you have it, if you don't have black, try mixing your brown, blue, and red together. Another thing you can try doing is actually try this instead. Use your charcoal and just put it on your canvas like this. It's kind of a fun way to get at some pent-up energy you might have. And then you could take some white paint and paint it, and you see it's going to blend. So that's a nice way. If you don't have black paint, use charcoal and white paint. Oops, I actually just, without even thinking, I mixed some black paint into mine. Okay, so this is what I have. There, something like that's fine to work on today. I'd like something in this middle value. So you don't have to start, really dark like we've done in the past, and don't necessarily start on a white canvas, but something in this middle value, this mid-tone is a good place to start. And then while you wait for that to dry, you can do the final touches on your still life. A good habit to get into, even if you're working from life, from observation, something I've started doing is just take a little snapshot of your still life on your phone. So you just have it for reference in the future if you need it. So I'm going to do that. And of course, your photograph is going to look a little different from how you see the still life, but you can always just refer to it that way. Another thing to think about, I have a square canvas here, but my canvas, this larger canvas I'm working on, is obviously not square. And something you'll want to think about is how to lay out your canvas. I actually spent a few minutes before I turned on the video today debating if I should start the canvas vertically or horizontally. Something you can do is kind of take a little snapshot with your hands of your still life and determine, is it more horizontal? Is it more vertical? Is it square? How do you want to position it on your canvas? So that's something also to think about. Charlotte, good morning. This will be a fun and colorful theme. Thanks for your inspiration. Yay. I know. I love summer and I love summer stuff. But you know what's funny is I actually didn't have when it came down to it last night and I was looking for stuff, I was like, oh wait. So what I have on my still life is more just colorful summery colors that I think about. And I love my striped, that's like a little picnic tablecloth. So I have to throw that in there. Since we are working with a lot of, hey Liz, since we are working with a lot of colors today, that's kind of why I wanted to start with a black and white underpainting, because that's going to make those bright colors pop also. And it's just a good challenge. So there is a term called grisaille, making a grisaille painting, Grissaille. Someone, maybe Liz, you can look it up and type it in the comments. But basically what that means, it's using black and white to make a monochromatic underpainting that then you lay colors on top of. Let me look it up for y'all so I can. Traditional, it's a traditional oil painting technique. I'm going to just send you the Wikipedia link here. Here we go. Thanks, Liz. And there's a link to the Wikipedia page, the most basic page on it. But yeah, so the idea is that you make an underpainting using just grays, black and white, and then you paint with your color on top of it. And what it does is you can get some really nice subtleties that way. We're going to come back to this approach later on this summer when we do icon paintings. But it's just kind of a fun, different thing to try out. I know I've had you do monochromatic underpaintings using like brown and white. But if you do have black paint today, try using black and white and making, you don't have to do it super detailed, but just make like a loose underpainting with your black and your white. So I think I'll just do a little demo on my canvas here. The paint's still wet, but let's see. Bird. So my paint's still a little bit wet here. And I am painting this bird. It's a bird potato peeler. And if you feel like this step is getting in the way of your excitement to just apply color onto your canvas, you do not have to do this. It definitely gives your painting a different mood. Sarah, yay. Hi. So when you do something like this, you want to pretend you're putting whatever it is you're painting, you're putting it in like a black and white filter on your computer, on the computer in your brain. And you can make your underpainting using black and white. You can make it as detailed or just as loose as you want. If you just want to indicate the form like the way this is now, that's fine. Or if you want to get in there with a little more detail, that's fine too. Either way. Some people choose to do a lot of detail at this point and then just layer colors over this. And I personally tend to work up to the detail, but everyone kind of figures it out in their own way. So this is where I'm going to leave this. I'm going to let it dry a little bit. This is just sort of a study. I'm going to let this dry and I'm going to put some more paints on my palette while it's drying, but I'll leave this here. I hope everyone's staying cool. It's so hot. Okay, so I know you can't really decipher anything here, but I have yellow, white, cadmium red medium. I have a little cadmium orange hue, burnt umber, dioxazine purple, and phthalo blue. And this is black, but I am going to try to not get that mixed in with these colors. Because this next layer of paint, I want, so you could, from here you could either work more transparently and just do transparent layers on top of this. But if you really want your colors to pop, you got to make them opaque. You got to make them sit on top of this gray. So you can play around with those two things. I want mine to to really sit on top here. So I'm going to start by mixing yellow and white. I have this on my lap. The titanium white will make this a little more opaque, so it sits on top of that gray a little better. Also, I have here yellow ochre, and that is a nice opaque color that's going to sit on top of the gray. So you see how just putting that on makes it pop. It's a nice opaque layer. Acrylic paints do dry. They tend to dry a little more transparent than they appear when you first put them on. Just be aware of that. So that wing is really popping. Now for highlights, Cece says hi. Hi, Cece. For highlights, I try to avoid using white right out of the tube. Something you might try doing if you're working with like a lot of warm colors like this, you could try mixing just the teeniest, tiniest amount of blue in your highlight or yellow or something else just to see how that shifts the highlight. Sometimes people just use white and then it looks like there's snow or there's like white powder on the painting. So if you mix a little bit of something else into it, you can, maybe it will look a little more natural that way in the painting. So I'm not sure if Roberta is here, but I was asked to talk about how to work with smaller brushes and create detail with smaller brushes. So I'm going to try to address that right now. I don't use a lot of small brushes, to be honest. So I got to do a little search here. Okay. I have a couple here. So when you work with something like this, the small round brush to create detail, the most important thing is that you need to have the viscosity of the paint fluid enough so that it drips off your brush in a nice, easy way. You don't want to just take this and just like plop it on. Like I want to do, there's this like very fine little detail of eye in the in this bird, and also I want to do some of the lines in the beak for the stainless steel beak. So I'm going to use this small brush. You can also use your acrylic glaze medium, which I'm going to try doing. So put some of that on your palette just to make it flow a little bit better. And I'm going to start with a dark value for this eye. It's like so hard to get in there. Okay. Like you see how I hope you can see how the paint flows off it a little better. I often have people write to me distressed because they say their hand shakes when they're painting and it's hard to get detail. And I completely sympathize because, the same thing is true for me. So a lot of times what I do is if my line is too thick, I have to cut away at it with other lines. So you see how the paint is flowing off my brush here a little bit easier because I put some fluid in it, some fluid medium. So it's the difference between, this or, let's see if I can even do it. Or that. I don't have as much control over this one because the paint is a little bit gloppier on there. And then sometimes people are scared and they only use a teeny tiny bit of paint. Like they'll just like do the tiniest little dab of paint on their brush and then you get that. So it's like you got to find the the in-between, the nice in-between where the paint is viscous enough to just flow off the brush and control. And also it helps to work flat for some of those details. And that's like the best advice I can give when you're using these small brushes. And also don't try to fill in a huge amount of space with a tiny brush like this. So what I'm going to do for the eye is I'm going to go ahead. It's a stainless steel little eye, so I'm going to just put a couple other dots on there of different values. And then if I have to, I might have to take my orange again and kind of clean up the edge. Something else I notice I do is when I'm putting the paint on my brush, if there's too much, I'll kind of spin the brush like this to get a nice sharp point. So I'll put the paint in the brush, and you see here it's kind of gloppy. There's too much paint on there. So I will just do a little spin like that. So I have more control now over this paint. I hope that helps with your working with small brushes. Let's say I wanted to, I know that I'm kind of straying here a little bit, but let's say I want to turn these lines into like little hairs, like it's fur or something. What I'm going to do is then I would take a highlight color, like a lighter gray, and I would paint on top of that, kind of off to the side, like a little highlight. And hopefully, I don't know if you can see there, it gives it a little more form that way. A little more dimension than just being like a line on the painting. My favorite, I like to use these small flat brushes for details, because something else I will do with these, I'll switch my color here so you can see, is I really like to, if I have to, like I'll paint a line with them and then I'll like turn the brush so that the line gets thinner as I'm painting. And I think that that's a really good, like for the beak here, that's a great example of where I would try that technique. It's really hard to do it this way, but let's see. No, I'm gonna do it like this. And my hands are shaking right now too, coffee. And then I'll use the corner of this, like if I gotta put a little highlight or something on something. And then I'm using this color, the surrounding color, to clean up some of those edges. And if you have a soft brush, you can blend those marks if you don't want to see your brush strokes. You have to do it pretty quickly because it's acrylics and it's going to dry pretty fast. But I love these flat brushes because you can get right up to an edge if you have to. Now, if you are going to work with oils and you did this grisaille underpainting, you need to wait for it to be dry before you start painting on top of it. And that takes at least a day, depending on what materials you're using. Okay, so you get the point here. If you're working on board, you're going to be able to get a lot better detail. I'm finding this is bugging me, the way that the bottom of that wing looks kind of blobby. So I'm gonna clean that up a little. I'm gonna take a flat brush and a shadow color, and I'm gonna take that out. Clean that up a little bit. All right, so that's a nice study to think about. If this is as far as you get today, excellent. I feel like I need to fix this beak a little. Kind of just got my paint a little bit too fluid. So I'm going to just let this dry like that. And if I wanted to now add more in the back, I could go in with some black paint and do another detail in there if I want to. Like I have a little slinky back here. I could maybe add that or an orange or something. But I'm going to chalk this up as a little study and then move into this. But I hope y'all are doing okay over there. And I sort of strayed from my original plan of action. So something to think about also when you're doing your still life is the further away things are, they're smaller in scale. Like even if you look at the still life that I set up here, look at the oranges. Like look how big this dish of oranges is compared to these two oranges in the foreground. Because these are closer to us, they're a little bit larger in scale. So things that are further away are smaller. And with the still life, if something's behind something or in the background, it's going to be slightly smaller in scale. So what I try to do, what I'm doing here is I started doing the bird down here at life size approximately, and then I'm gonna try to just use it as my jumping off and then do the other objects in relationship to this bird, as opposed to trying to make them all the size that they are in real life. I hope that makes sense. So if you have any questions about whatever it is you're drawing that you need a little help with, feel free to just ask me in the comments or in the chat. So for the sake of this video, I haven't actually placed in the entire um, still life yet, but I'm just going to go ahead and start painting. So curious to know what all of you are painting. I went camping with my husband last weekend in a nice remote place, and he brought this picnic, the striped tablecloth, and we had it out on our table the whole time. And I cannot tell you how much joy it brought me. Just this like funny little striped picnic table blanket, tablecloth. I would never have done that because I just don't think about details like that. Like I would have just eaten off of the stone table that they provide at the campsite. But instead, we had this like fun, cheerful tablecloth out. So this has been a very important part of my summer. It's the little things. It's just so funny because when he got it, he was insisting on getting this tablecloth, and I was just like, okay, whatever, whatever you got to do it. And then it just turned out to just be the cutest, and I just loved having it there. So you just never know what is going to surprise you and bring you joy, especially these days. I find that I just kind of do a little better if I just start painting with the brush. I mean, I definitely mapped all this out first, but I don't know, something about just using the brush. I just have an easier time getting the subject matter down with a brush. And I also have an easier time jumping into the painting if I'm using a brush right off the bat. So that's why I rarely do like a really detailed drawing underneath. But again, to each their own. We all have a different way. I just want to point out the bowl here too. There's a potter in town named Melissa Weiss, and that is her clay and her glaze. I took a workshop with her and made that. The little clay people, I don't know if you can see them in the back here. That's a woman, Betsy Kendrick. She does ceramics and painting. Something you can have fun with too when you do a still life is move the objects around. Like I have some rolls of tape here on the table, but maybe I'll make one up here floating around um, above the still life. Or something you can play around with is turning your canvas around and overlapping things and just, maybe even getting a little more abstract with your composition. Just something to think about. You don't have to do it with this one, but in the future, you can be playful with that. Okay, we're getting close to the end. I hope that this demo helped you to see how you would layer color on top of your black and white painting, if that's something you choose to do. I am planning on continuing this. I've been really into doing still lifes lately, just because it's there in front of me. I don't really have to think about it too much. So I am planning on finishing this and continuing it. Hopefully I can show you the results, or at least the more of the process of it. I'll see about doing a short time-lapse video. I know I say that all the time and I never do it, but we'll see. I would love to see whatever it is you're doing. So please send me a picture, maybe tell me about the significance of the objects you've chosen for your still life. I love little stories like that. I really love painting still lifes, and in fact, there is a show up right now in Tryon at the upstairs gallery on Main Street, and I have some still life paintings in it, if you happen to get to Tryon. And there's other still lifes. There's a group show of still life paintings. So you might check that out. And some of them are things that I started on this feed, doing these classes. So some of them might look familiar. Okay, well, I would love to see your work, whatever you do. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll stick around for a couple more minutes. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. Send me any questions you might have. We will be back next Monday working on an abstract painting. We're going to work from a photograph. So you could use a photograph from a magazine, a picture, a page from a magazine. Be prepared to cut it up. Something that you don't have to keep keep together. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks so much for painting with me. It's really great to see everyone this morning, and I can't wait to see what you do. Thank you, Charlotte. Have a really good week, everyone. Hi there, turned halfway through, but love the work. The big one is great, inspiring. Thank you, Lisa. You can go back after this posts and talk about painting with color on top of a black and white underpainting. And we do use black paint, black and white paint. All right, everyone, thanks again so much. And I look forward to next week. Keep in touch. Show me your paintings. I really want to see them. All right, bye.